Hello, welcome back to another Pen Talk. Thank you very much for joining me as I continue my exploration of the wonderful world of fountain pens in 2025. So I talked about not being motivated to buy a lot of new pens, but you should know me better than that. Here's 3 of them that are winging their way to me. I couldn't pass up more stabilized wood pens, and the black 9019 has been on my radar for a while after his nibs did a review of it, and I wish I had a black nib, but I have some nibs that I think might look good in a pen, so stay tuned for those coming up in the near future. But meanwhile, I've been looking at some pens I've had stored away for decades and decades, and this one rose to the top of the pile. Some of you might recognize this sleeve. Parker used it for quite a while, 70s, 80s, and 90s. So if you slide off the sleeve, you'll see. I probably bought this during one of my many trips to Europe. In the 70s, 80s, and 90s, I flew to London and Paris and other places quite regularly, and I always would shop. So I'm asking you, what model is this? As we pop the top off. Yes, the top took a little bit of effort to get up, but we'll see 2. Hopefully you find them interesting, and hopefully the glare isn't that distracting. But we have a fountain pen, and we have a ballpoint. Let's explore these a little bit more, talk about why Parker made them, and we'll see how they write. So those that don't recognize the model, it's a Parker 25, and I didn't know it was a Parker 25. I should, but I didn't. So I had to take a picture of it and let Google search the image, and I found it. There's been a fair number of reviews. Ashley Squirrel did one, and a bunch of other people did one. Graham did a few, and he said that this matte black version was a little bit rare. The brushed stainless one is a lot more popular, but this is what I have, so this is what we're going to look at. We'll put the ballpoint aside for a moment. As you might expect, it's just a pop-off cap, feels good. And we'll see the first telltale sign of this pen is that wraparound nib. And it doesn't have a breather hole, so that positions this as like the second version of the model based on Seth's assessment. I think it's good. So why does this pen exist? Well, back in the 70s, some people at Parker decided that they wanted to get into the lower-end pen market. They felt there was a lot more growth there, and probably with competing with ballpoints, and they probably had their jotter making some good success, so they came out with this model. And I think this model also has some traits in it, which I would say is reminiscent of Chinese pen manufacturing at this time. If we unscrew the section, you'll see another thing that dates the model, an aerometric filler, which I didn't expect to find in a pen that may have been made in the 80s. And it's just a standard aerometric filler. I mean, that'll hold a decent amount of ink. And there's no mistaking that these are metal bits. We can see that brass there and the threads that have been machined in place. But that's that. And of course, ballpoint is ballpoint. You just press down on the cap and the ballpoint comes out, and after many, many decades, this writes fine. Parker made great refills. There's a little bit of a circular pattern in the top of the caps. I thought maybe the ballpoint would be a little bit different. So if you had these sitting in your pocket, both of them, you could just pull out the ballpoint or the fountain pen by looking at the top of the cap, but they didn't do that. Even Esterbrook did that. As usual, when I do a fountain pen review, I like to read what a lot of other people had to say and maybe watch a few videos. But one of the things that, as a metallurgist, I was amazed about is everybody keeps talking about this being a steel pen. So we have a very strong magnet here, and it doesn't stick. It sticks a little bit to the clip, but not a very strong attachment, so that's a slightly magnetic material, but the body of the pen is not. It's made of brass, as we saw when we looked inside and saw those threads. I'm just surprised that someone didn't realize that they would make a pen out of steel. They made it out of brass and then coated it. So one of the challenges with vintage is once you've identified the model is when was it made? So there are three distinguishing characteristics to determine what model of 25 this is, and one has to do with the top of the cap. This is the flat top one. There's a dimpled one. The other thing you look at is where is it made and how is that engraved. Hopefully this is coming out. And the third thing is whether the nib has a breather hole or not, and this one doesn't. So this is definitely a Mark II. Here's when they were made. The rolled steel one, which I doubt, was also made for a much longer period of time. So that's what makes this 25B model rarer. Well, this pin feels very secure when you cap it and when you post it. So I wanted to look inside the cap to see how it was constructed. And it appears there's just a little bit of a clutch mechanism in there. Could be a little plastic liner that secures the cap, and you can feel it engage when you press it on, either posting or capping. And that little insert there is probably what holds in the clip. So it's a very clean design. It just works well. So one of the other major design aspects of the pen is this very simplistically done clip. They've incorporated that logo in there, which provides you with a little bit of a stop there. And the clip is pretty stiff, but very functional. I think one of the challenges with a clip like this is you probably could spring it if you were very aggressive or did something not very smart. But again, it's a nice clean design. Kudos to Parker. So what ink to put in? Well, I wanted a black ink, and I wanted ink I haven't used in a long time, and this is that ink. It was given to me by a fellow pen nerd at a pen meetup many years ago. Comes in a nice box. But looking at this bottle, you may say, that looks very, very familiar, and yes, it does. Maybe the Parker ink, and this is sapphire, was bottled or something to do with China. Yes, this is that famous ink that many people pine for. I bought a few of these bottles, and I still have them. This one is long dried out, but I keep the bottle because it works in some videos. So you look at the side of the box of the Hero ink, we'll see it's a pigmented black ink. And they say it's good for fountain pens. We'll see. So if you were writing with this pen, the first thing you would notice is it has a very strong pencil-like feedback. So you're going to have to be comfortable with that if you like to write with it. And I think the Hero pigmented ink adds to that feedback. If I'd have used a more lubricated, non-pigmented ink, I think the nib would have glided more across the paper. Which goes back to the first video of 2025, the ink makes the pen. So people that have challenges with how a pen might write, other than checking the nib, maybe doing some nib tuning, changing the ink might have a big difference. And also, the paper has a big difference. This Fabriano paper has a little texture to it, so it would provide with more feedback than like a Tomo River paper would. That's very smooth. But overall, it's a pleasant pen to write with. And the whole selling feature, well, one of the many selling features of the pen when it was introduced in the mid-70s, indestructible, writes all the time, and I think those were accurate. So, we reached the end of the video review. Hopefully you've enjoyed it. A little throwback video. A lot of people reviewed this pen on YouTube, on the internet. It's been around for a while. It's also very collectible. There's a lot of auctions and listings that have this pen priced very, very high, which makes you believe that the pen is slightly rare. And these are pretty much almost mint. I got the original box, etc., etc. So, who knew? Sitting in my shelf, untouched, was a piece of valuable pen memorabilia. I mean, I don't get really enthralled by these pens or this design. A lot of people didn't like the way the barrel was shaped, but it's done that way on purpose. The design wanted to post very deeply, very securely. You can feel it snap in place, and it feels fine in the hand posted. One reviewer called this the most postable pen ever made, and I wouldn't disagree with that statement. The section feels good in the hand, not slippery at all. And that small nib, you notice when you get down close to it with your fingers, you feel that little metal band. The nib can be pulled out. I'm not going to do that. Here's what it looks like. You know, looks like they kind of used a little bit of that Parker 51 going to Parker 45 design to put that nib and feed into this pen. It was a very successful design by Parker. Kind of helped them stay above water in the 70s and 80s and into the 90s. So with that, what can I say? I'm just glad that I've now resurrected this pen set from my archives to show it to you, give you a little bit of history, just a little. I'll put some links in my video description for more detailed reviews of the pen for those of you that want to do that. Look up the other videos. There's a couple of them actually on disassembling the pen, which I said I wasn't going to do. So with that, we've come to the conclusion. I hope this video found everyone safe, healthy, and happy, enjoying your pens, rediscovering your pens, having fun with your pens. That's having fun all the time is my mantra. So with that, we've reached the end. Thank you all for watching, and we will say bye. I got some more throwback videos in the works.